I know as a puppy owner, you're pretty overwhelmed with all of the things that you have to teach your puppy. There's so much that your puppy has to learn and you have such little time. But today's video is really about making sure that that list gets a little bit easier, because today I'm going to be telling you the top 4 things you absolutely do not want to teach your dog, and we're getting started right now. What's up, guys? It's Jenna with Dog Liaison, where I coach you on how to enhance your dog's mental health. And on this channel, we break down scientific research in order to inform and educate us on how to train dogs. If you're like me and you like looking at canine cognition from a nerdy aspect, make sure you hit subscribe. I know that as a new puppy owner, you are completely overwhelmed with how much there is to learn. I know that you feel like the list is just getting longer and longer by the day. The puppy is nipping at you, the puppy's barking at you, potty training is an issue. There's just so much to do. Today's video is really about making sure that gets a little bit easier. I'm going to be giving you the 4 things you should not teach your dog. This is a part 2 to my first part, which was about 4 things you should teach your dog before anything else. So after this video, if you haven't seen that already, I recommend you go check it out. It'll be tagged at the end of this video as well. Now, let's get into it. Let's get into talking about the 4 things that you absolutely do not teach your dog. Now, the first thing that you absolutely do not want to teach your dog is to just cry it out or to just get over it. Now, what I mean by this is a lot of times when you put your puppy into the crate or you put your puppy outside, they just whine and whine and whine and whine. And a lot of trainers will recommend that you just let them cry into perpetuity until they finally shut up. And what this accidentally does is teach the dog learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is defined as when the puppy suffers from a sense of powerlessness or a sense of continued failure. And this is really hard on the ego. What learned helplessness accidentally does is it tells the puppy that they're not capable. It tells the puppy that they cannot solve their own problems. And the example that I always use, as it was explained to me, is the case of a baby elephant. So when you had circuses back in the day, they would get baby elephants and they would tie the elephants around their neck to a metal post in the ground. And when the baby elephant would try to move, he wouldn't be strong enough to move the metal post, so he would just end up giving up. And so as the baby elephant would get bigger and became an adult, now the adult wouldn't even try to move the metal post because they were so convinced that they couldn't do it from their experiences as a baby. And this is saddening to me, that you might have an animal who is so discouraged by their own capabilities that they don't even try. And so the idea is that you are breaking down the puppy's ego. You are breaking down their confidence. And even if you are eventually getting a dog who doesn't cry in the crate, let's say that this works. You know, he eventually learns that, well, crying isn't going to get me out. It doesn't work. I might as well just calm down. The bigger lesson that you've taught your dog is that they're not capable of problem solving, that they're not capable of calling out for help when they need it, and that they're not capable of confidence. And so that issue is transferable to a lot of other elements in their life. It is possible that you leaving your puppy, your 9-week-old puppy, in the crate to cry long enough, it could transfer over into a very insecure, lack of confidence puppy, and now you have a dog who might be a little bit more fearful than he really should be. Now, again, I don't like saying that this is definite. I don't like arguing that, you know, if you do X, then inevitably Y will happen. There's no way for me to know that. It's on case-by-case basis, but it has been done over and over and over again, where we accidentally do things to our puppies that cause them to lose confidence, and now you have an insecure dog, and now you have a reactive dog because of that insecurity. This sequence of events happens all the time, and to avoid that, we really want to make sure that we are giving our dogs opportunities to be confident and that we are not letting them learn that they're incapable of doing things. That's why effective crate training really prevents the puppy from crying altogether. It prevents the cry, the loneliness, the helplessness altogether. And we're making sure that the puppy is in the crate comfortably, whether he's sleeping or he's playing with a toy or whatever. He's in there on his own free will. He's on there because he enjoys it, and he's not saying, let me out, let me out, let me out. Now, the second tidbit is going to be quite contentious, and I know that there are a lot of trainers who are going to disagree with me, but I would argue that your puppy does not need to learn obedience right now. I would argue that you can teach all of that stuff, the sit, the down, the stay, the come, the whatever, later on in life. If you're in a group class with your puppy and they happen to be teaching that, more power to you. Go for it. When you spend so much time obsessing over these obedience skills and these basic cues that could be taught at any age, you are basically taking away from your time to teach the dog other life skills that actually matter right now, because you're shaping his personality. You're failing to teach him to ask questions. You're failing to encourage him to learn about the world. For me, it's about, is my time better spent teaching my dog to do a down stay perfectly, or is my time better spent teaching my dog to problem solve using a food puzzle, or using his nose by playing Find It? To me, that's a better usage of my time with my puppy. The third thing that you absolutely do not need to teach your dog is that eating out of a bowl on a schedule is normal. Listen, I am a realist, and I know that we have given the dogs an eating schedule and we have them eat out of the bowl because that's what's convenient for us. It's a domestication process. It makes sense in the human world. But from a dog standpoint, eating out of a bowl once in the morning and once at night, especially on a schedule, is not normal. And so when you do that for your puppy, you're basically taking away the challenge of finding food. You're just providing food without actually making him work for it or think for it, which is what would be normal if he was not domesticated. So you can do a couple of things for this. One, you can change the time of day that you feed. So maybe you're feeding anywhere from 1 time to 8 times a day, whatever is feasible for you. You can change where you feed. So you can feed through Find It. You can look up 101 things to do with a box and feed through one of those. You can play little brain games, and that's how you're giving that kibble. But don't feel like you need to feed out of a bowl twice a day, every day, and that's somehow a normal thing to do. Especially because sometimes when you feed the dog on a schedule like that, you can accidentally get the dog to get too attached to that time limit. And so now before you know it, you have a puppy who's running up to you at 4:59 every night and saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. And that's preposterous. You do not need to have a dog doing that to you. And by doing that, you are setting the dog up for a much more productive way of eating food. The fourth thing that you do not need to teach your dog is that they need to approach every single person or dog that they meet. Listen, when they're in this early stages, when they're under 16 weeks or so, having them go up to other dogs and learning other personalities and having them approach people is important. But equally important is getting the dog to understand that we do not go up to every single person and every single dog. When your dog is out in the world, just like with people, he's not going to meet and shake hands with every single new person. And so it's unrealistic to let him have that false assumption. Indifference is important. Walking by a person and doing your own thing is really important, and that is equally rewarding. Therefore, it results in treats. It results in something the dog likes. It is equally rewarding to ignore a person as it is to engage a person. And that's really the lesson you want to teach, which is that, going into the person's cool. You get affection, you get a highs, hellos, everything good happens. But walking away from the person still results in you getting something great. And that lesson that you need to get the dogs to walk by people without feeling like they need to engage with every little thing is something that I think most people forget to train because they're so fixated on getting the dogs to engage with people. So this goes back to teaching a level of independence, which is the first step to things that you should teach your dog. If you haven't seen this video, make sure you check it out. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you hit like, ask me any questions in the comment section. If you enjoy this content, make sure you hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.